Hello again, and welcome back to Mimsy Park and another episode of MANIC Movie Reviews. Today we are going to be reviewing No Escape Room from 2018. This is a movie about a girl named Karen and her dad, and they're basically on their way out to go have a bonding experience together. There's clearly a big rift between them. Mom is not in the picture. That's obvious from the very beginning. And so they go to have this bonding experience, and while they're on the road, they have some car trouble. They are at a diner. They find an ad for an escape room and decide to go do this escape room as a bonding experience. And since this is a horror movie, we all know it goes terribly awry, terribly quickly. Not quickly enough, though. I watched this movie, or rather Brittany and I watched this movie, because this movie was number 3 on Netflix's movies. Today, as of February 25th and the filming of this episode, it is number 4. I know that because I already knew I was going to go off on this, and I had to go check. I had some small amount of faith that this was going to not be on the top 10 list anymore at all. It's still number 4. The casting is wrong. Either the dad looks too young or the daughter looks too old for the context of the characters. This entire opening scene of this movie in the car is just awkward because it's not only clunky dialogue, it's also the dad's acting is not good. Karen's whole character is written like their reference for teenagers is whatever negative meme about millennials is at the time. She's just that whiny, uppity, I'm too good, I glued to my phone. It's a very cliche teenager. I understand there are teenagers like this, but you don't have to write them all like this. So really from the very outset, I knew I was not going to enjoy this movie. I've been getting better about trying to give movies that don't seem great at first a chance, but this one kind of just kept me going on a very negative trajectory through the whole thing. The writing is clunky, the editing is god awful. And if you avoid this because of my review, I'm sorry to the people involved that my review caused people to not go watch your movie, but this is just not, it's just not a good movie. It's written poorly, it's full of cliches and tropes, and basically it's just, there's not really anything original here. I read a few reviews online that talked about it being a fun premise and an original premise. This is not an original premise. This is a group survival horror movie. It's not an original idea. You just put it in the context of an escape room, and I really feel like escape rooms are more predicated on a lot of movies that we've seen in the last decade or two. Saw comes to mind, I feel like, but I also don't know a lot about escape rooms. And I did try to go into this with that in mind, that I don't know a lot about escape rooms, so certain things that to me seem ridiculous might fall in line with the whole idea of an escape room. Had they taken the time to really chisel away the details and really fine-tune the details of this movie, you could have had an interesting movie. And when I say fine-tuning the details, I'm talking about the editing. I'm talking about the casting choices. The girl that plays Karen is actually not bad in this movie, and so there is kind of a saving grace there. The guy that plays Andrew, who's the big jock dude, I actually really like him. I don't know, there's a hair in my hat. The other thing is that there are no real scares in this movie. Like, even at a certain point, I was even going, dude, give me a jump scare. At least. There's a lot of moments where you can tell the tension is only building, or they think the tension is building because the music is getting more intense, and it's implied that something is going to happen, but it's only implied because you have these violin sounds and these high frequency sounds building and building and building, but it's all done around these cliche setups and these cliche scares, or what are supposed to be scares. Like the first major one that we get is in the bathroom where the light's flickering and it just drags on, and I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it more intense. They're under the impression that if it drags out long enough, the intensity will be there, but not enough is happening on screen to make it feel tense, to make it feel like I'm supposed to be scared. And then when the scare comes, it's that false setup type of scare. The whole scene with her in the, I don't know if it's an incinerator or just a storage for a morgue, this whole scene is something they cut to and back from for probably a good like 20 minutes, and there's not enough going on in this scene. Every time we cut back, she's in the same spot with something walking back and forth outside of the container that she's in. And at a certain point, you're going, dude, something needs to happen. Something needs to happen, or I'm just going to check out, which is eventually what I ended up doing. At a certain point, I started watching this movie for a whole separate reason than what I went into it with. And what that thing that it turned into, or that reason that it turned into to keep watching, was to understand how the this movie made it to number 3 on Netflix's movies. Which brings me around to really kind of the other portion of this episode. I've long had this kind of idea or concern that trending isn't really trending. And I don't know if it's like a Gamergate situation where somebody is paying to get these movies into a top spot, or if people really are watching this. I don't know what it's predicated off. I just don't know if it's me being cynical. Don't get me wrong, this movie is a show. This is a show of a picture show, and I'm not wrong in that respect. But regardless of what is actually going on there and how this movie became number 3, either way, it doesn't deserve to be anywhere near this top 10 list. Like, I'm truly boggled at how this movie made it onto the top 10. Things like the props, like this scene where they first sit down with the whole group and they're all given this tea, which we'll come back to the tea, but they're all given this tea and it's bubbling and so very obvious that it's dry ice. It's like painfully obvious. And then at one point there's that you can see one of the cups and you can clearly see 3 pumps pushing it up. And it's just little things like that it's like, dude, like I understand these things happen. There's bloopers in every movie. I'm not saying that that if I were to do it, I would notice it. But if you notice it, you reshoot it. It's that simple. You just reshoot it. Don't get me wrong. We've got bad writing in here too. It's full of cliches. It's full of just, you know, they're driving to go do this thing, and then, oh, they have car trouble, and then, oh, they find an escape room, and it's all been done before. And you do not have to have an original idea to have a good movie. At least it wasn't a remake. I'll give them that. At least it wasn't a remake. There feels like there's a lot of throwaway elements. Like, we don't really ever see, or at least I remember, we never see the instructor. At one point, Tyler gets pulled into this doorway whenever they're going through, again, spoiler alert, when they're going through this echo, which is what we find out everything is. Apparently, everyone was dead the whole time. They're experiencing it over again. And there's this whole point where, like, Ty is what they call him. We go through the echo and actually see what happens when he left the group, and some fuzzy black arm just pulls him into a doorway. We never find out what the that was. We never go deeper into the instructor, which you totally could have done. You could have dove into so many cool elements in this movie, but they chose to just stick to the safe lane, play it safe, cliches, tropes. You could have used this to go into so much in this movie to make it really cool, but really the most we find out about the backstory is really in the opening movie. Like, this opening scene where they're watching this movie and then all of a sudden this girl disappears. Now, I did say we'll come back to the tea. This is another thing that seems like it just happens conveniently and doesn't have a realistic impact. When Ty is hallucinating through the mask, like he's looking through the mask and he seems like sees like worms and like that crawling on his hand. He's the only one to have hallucinations after they drink this tea. Why do we have one character hallucinating when other people drink the tea as well? We've got one person hallucinating. It just doesn't make sense. And it's something that happens conveniently to explain away why he eventually leaves. Obviously, I did not like it. I'm actually frustrated that it's at number 4. If you do want to go watch this movie, it is on Netflix streaming right now. A part of me does feel bad for shitting on it this much. However, this is a bad movie. And again, I don't just mean it was like made badly. I mean, like, it's not fun. Its reliance on cliches and horror stereotypes takes the fun aspect out. And when you take the fun aspect out, you need to have something solid lying underneath, or it just crumbles into dust. If you have seen No Escape Room, I would love to know what you thought of it. Maybe I'm being too unfair. I'm always willing to acknowledge that I may be wrong. Often my cynicism gets in the way of me being not necessarily correct. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to feel about a movie necessarily, but I feel like if you go and watch this, you can probably come to the same conclusion that I did, which is, oh boy, you're never getting that hour 26 back. You don't get to get it back, but maybe you'll like it more than I did. Who knows? Give it a shot. Either way, guys, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, thumbs down is fine. You can leave us some constructive criticism down in the comments. Speaking of comments, I would love to get your suggestions on any movies you'd like me to watch. You can leave those down there as well. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you are liking the videos and you have not subscribed already. There are more of these coming out. I'm also doing the From the Deep podcast with Mike the Finder. You can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other major podcast streaming services. We also do a video version on YouTube. The podcast version is just the audio of the video version. Those are also on a playlist on my channel. Go check out Mike the Finder if you have not seen him yet. He does movie reviews too, but he does them in kind of a less angry, maybe less technical sort of way, which I'm sure is probably refreshing. But anyway, guys, thumbs up, thumbs down, comments, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time.